Good, everybody. This is Jay Means, the representative from the Have Not family, and today's talk is about the ideology of race and its origins in North America. Now, the reason why this is so important is because racism is something that still haunts us in this country today, and people in a lot of other countries also. It is one of the key things that keeps us separated as human beings, whether if we believe that one race is inferior or superior to another, or just a simple basis on equality. Do women deserve equality? This all kind of stems from this idea of race and racism. And we can pretty much pinpoint it into the time of the slave trade in the colonial era in the 15th, 16th, and 1700s. Okay, so the main 3 points that we're going to hit on. We're going to hit about the hidden history of African people, why it's so important to keep that from the African people that were transferred into the Americas. We're going to talk about the whitewashing of racism through science and philosophy. And then we're going to talk about how this affects us today. Okay, so to begin, we're going to start with the African cultures. So now, a lot of the African cultures, or the history about the African cultures, is not taught to us in school. So we don't hear about the prominent people of the Kush people, the people that were there before the Egyptians that date back almost to 6,000, 5,000 BC. We don't hear about the libraries of Timbuktu, where these African people were revered for their advancements in science, for their advancements in what we call civilization down there on the Nile River. I mean, there are thousands of walls that are covered with hieroglyphics with people with dark skin, Nubian pharaohs, Nubian queens. Okay, now this has been taken away from the black people, because what's so important about taking away the history of a people is to further indoctrinate them into a system of imperialism that you want them to live under. And this is important with slaves, because if they have no history to build themselves on, to build on any type of pride, in our case, if our history has told us that it started with slavery and that we have no history, then this keeps us furthermore enslaved in the mind. Now, what is more important than conquest of the mind? Nothing. This is one of the things that we fight against today. So what you have to understand is there's remnants of these African cultures all throughout our history, regardless if we talk about the Spaniards and the Moorish people. If we talk about Alexandria was in Africa, a very prominent library. That's something that you do hear about in school. But when you get to talking about the Kush Empire and the Nubian pharaohs that came and took over Egypt, then you start to understand a little bit more about what they kept from you, and what they keep from all of us. So make sure you do your research. Go look up Kush empires, lost empires of Africa, empires of ancient Egypt, of the ancient Nile River, okay, Nile River Valley. Make sure you look up the Nubian Empire. Make sure you look up all those type of things. Okay, now let's move on to sort of the whitewashing of racism. Now, during the colonial time was a great time of capitalism, but not only was it a great time of capitalism, it was also a great time of social reform. Now, poor whites at this time were really fighting to get land, to get property, to own things. And at this time in American history, the people that owned a lot of stuff were the slaveholders at this time. Okay, it was to the point to where white colonials, or English colonials, they did not feel like they could even live or survive without the African help, without the African hand. And so this is what we started seeing uses of religion and uses of philosophy and uses of science. And to give you some examples of science, that they actually used to teach that black people were intermixed with chimpanzees, that they used to mate with apes, with monkeys. And so you see kind of a dehumanizing of a culture. Now keep in mind, they knew about the ancient empires of Africa. That's why this is so important that you cover up the history, so you kind of take them away from